So I'm Alex Brown, and welcome to the video. I may have found a new vlogging setup because actually just taking the top off of my little Joby tripod, GorillaPod, it ain't bad. But today we're doing a review of the Yorkville PS12s. It is a 12-inch subwoofer that's actually meant to be paired with the Yorkville PS10ps, which are 10-inch powered speakers. And I'm also going to do a little bit of comparison to my old ZXA1 EV that I used to have prior to this, and some of the differences. I've also heard, I think they're EV ZLXs, 12-somethings, that my friend Danny, who you've seen in videos before, has, and I'll do a little bit of comparison to that as well. But really we're focusing on this sub. I'm going to talk to you about some features that it has, the sound quality, and the price, and its pairing with other speakers, and of course comparing it with other subwoofers. So first of all, I think this is a great sub. This is an expensive sub, but it's not an 18-inch sub, so don't expect it to be an 18-inch sub. And that goes for all 12-inch subs. So I've used this with my Yorkville PS12ps, which are not actually the recommended pairing. For the 12ps, they want you to pair that with a 15S sub. This is a 12S. And I'm pointing here because it's there behind me on the floor. I found that with the 12ps, it's really nice. It's good. I mean, like I said at the start of the video, it's not an 18-inch sub, it's not a 15-inch sub, it's a 12-inch. So it does have some limitations. But for 12-inch compared to, say, the ZXA1, the frequency range is so much better. When you compare it with the comparable EV ZLXs, which are about $600-700 maybe, the sound frequencies are similar. This gets nice and low, which I like. The EV ZXA1 does not. But this sounded really good in the gym of a high school that it was a bit of a smaller dance, didn't quite command the Mackie SWA 1801s, but I used the PS12P tops with this sub, the PS12S, and it sounded good. I was happy with it, and it threw nice and far. So in the back of the gym, you could still feel, I mean, it didn't feel like you were standing in front of the sub, but you could hear and still feel a little bit of bass. And that's with people in the gym too. So that was impressive to me, and that's where there's a little bit of a difference. I mean, the ZXA1 does not do that at all. Totally different sub. Much cheaper, much less sound quality, frequency level, but the ZLXs, I think they're the ZLXs. Pardon me if I'm wrong, I'll put a little annotation in if I am. They don't really throw so far. This throws a lot further, and I'm guessing it's because of the design of the speaker, which I'm just going to dive into a little bit here. I believe, if I'm correct, this is horn-loaded. If I'm not, I'll let you know, but horn-loaded speakers and subwoofers typically throw their sound further. And obviously the ZLX models are not. And yeah, I'm comparing a Yorkville and an EV. That's kind of all I really have to compare. So, you know, with using Danny's subs, I've noticed that after about 10 feet in front of his setup, the bass can die off a little bit, and it dies off pretty quickly, whereas this, you know, you're still hearing and feeling some of the bass in the back of a high school gym. Part of it is also the pairing, because I've used this with my Yamaha DXR15s, which are a lower grade speaker than the Yorkville PS12ps. And, you know, they're good for Sweet 16s without a sub most times. Sometimes I need a sub with them. Sometimes I do smaller school dances with them and ceremonies and things, which they're kind of big for a ceremony. But using this sub with the DXR15s was a little different. And one thing I noticed is that the throw, and I was in a different room, so it's a little different, but the throw of the sub was compromised a little bit because it wasn't working with the speakers so much, if you understand what I'm saying. So I did think that was interesting. You know, I felt I was turning this sub up a lot, using it with the DXRs versus with the Yorkvilles. I felt it was a little bit more balanced. Overall, good sub. Now let's talk about money, because we've kind of talked about most of the other things. This is not a cheap sub. It's very well made. I mean, you can, and the people at Yorkville will tell you, you can't. The warranty is like 4 years on their speakers, and you can, unless you're shooting the thing with a bazooka, you pretty much can't void the warranty, which is a nice thing, and that's part of why Yorkvilles are more expensive, and they're really well-made speakers. However, it's expensive. It's going to last a long time, and it's going to sound very good, but it's expensive. It's like $1,100 map price, I think, or MSRP, depending on how you want to look at it, compared to maybe $700 for an EV ZLX sub. It has a little bit lower frequency range, but are you going to hear it? No. What you're going to hear is the fact that this is horn loaded and the ZLXs are not. Does that matter to you? Probably not. Really good build quality on this sub. Obviously, there's no digital displays and digital crossovers and things that you would get on the ZLX, so that is something to keep in mind if that's something you're adamant about having. I don't really care that much because of the way I set things up, and when it comes down to it, it doesn't matter a whole lot for me. But for you, it might, so that's a good consideration to keep in mind. I think they charge a little bit too much for this sub. You know, obviously you can probably get it more around the $900 range from like KPO DJ if you call them up and say, hey, what's the actual price on this thing? And lastly, we need to talk about some of the things on the back. There is a mic line switch, so I believe it adds 10 or 12 dB of gain if you need it, and sometimes you do. If you're not pairing it with Yorkville PS12ps, you might need that extra gain. I used it at the dance I did when I was using the DXRs because I needed that little bit of extra gain. Because the gain structure is a little bit different, Yorkville versus Yamaha, which is fine, and it's actually a good thing that it has that on there. It is fairly basic. You don't have stereo XLRs, and there's no crossover in it, which is actually a bit of a downside for the price. I obviously got this sub a lot cheaper than $1,100 because I bought it used. But value may be lacking a little bit because of the cost versus the features that come in it. You do have two inputs, but there's only one XLR in and out and one, I'm assuming it's a TS in and out. I haven't looked up the specs on it. Besides that, I mean, I think it's a good sub. I'm certainly not selling it to upgrade to anything. It's certainly not a replacement for the Mackie SWA 1801s I have that are old and legendary. Very big, very loud, very heavy speakers, subwoofers, but it definitely replaced the ZXA 1, and I'm much happier with it than the ZXA 1. And I also think that with being the type of events that I'm doing, it fills the middle ground pretty well. Whereas like I felt that the ZXA 1 didn't really fit that middle ground, where you're kind of between needing to bring a really big sound system with two subs or a smaller sound system with just two speakers. I feel like two speakers with the PS12s is pretty good, and I typically just use one because I only have one. But two would definitely sound obviously better. It's worth noting that this might not be the sub for you because of price and things. So if you have any questions about that, it's really kind of a complex topic. I think most DJs are probably going to go with ZLXs just because they're cheaper, and from a DJ perspective, that might be the way to go. And also, if you're a DJ who really cares about sound, you're going to want to go with this subwoofer. It certainly, the dynamics of the sound that I can't really explain because it's going to be getting way too in-depth, you if you know and understand sound, you'll hear some of those things out of this subwoofer versus something like a ZLX. I hope you guys enjoyed the review video. As always, if you have any questions, please leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and any video ideas as well would be good. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you'll also subscribe to my channel, because YouTube is being a pain in the butt about subscribers and monetization. So, thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, peace.